I'm Sagar Vyas. I'm the Chief Information and Security Officer at Jolera. I look after various platforms and services at Jolera. So a little bit about Jolera real quick. We are a GSI, Global Systems Integrator, and MSP. We predominantly operate in Canada and in Portugal and 14 other countries. About 650 people globally. And so my role in the organization, I spearhead automation, professional services, anything that's a technical platform essentially is what I spearhead. I'm very security focused, so I think when I look at anything that relates to automation, I immediately drive toward security. So that is my role in the organization. I'll sort of pass.
And then just one quick question: how many employees does the organization have? Roughly 650
globally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And before we slide down for the next introduction, I just want to do a check with the AV. As we're recording this, would it be better if the panelists slid over one seat? Yay? Nay? It's okay? All right. I think we're good. All right. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was lit up well. Okay, great. Next up.
All right. And all the technical issues have been covered here. I'm John Snyder from NetFriends. We're a Durham-based MSP. Been in business since 1998. And we have about 40 folks. And we've been in the automation journey and with various platforms and tools for many, many years. My role is your traditional EOS visionary. And so it's my job to try to project tons of optimism and confidence into the company. We can do this. We've got this. And so I guess I'm the chief cheerleader.
Okay. And I think most people in the audience know what EOS is. This is the
Entrepreneurial
operating
System.
Could you just give a soundbite about that? What is that?
Oh my.
Yeah, a soundbite.
Well, they're going to have to give me some sort of spiff or commission for that. No, it is a framework and a set of terms and language in your organization that allows you to have really good and impactful meetings, getting feedback for anything that you do in your business that's kind of a regular repeating thing. Helps you track metrics, helps you just iterate and improve your business in a variety of ways. And for us, we've been on EOS ever since 2018, and it's been a really, really good platform for us. But
fantastic. Matt, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having
me. You're a 2-year veteran up on the panel, huh?
Apparently I did something right.
All right.
So I'm Matt Rose. Call myself the Chief Experience Officer of TechRage IT. We just couldn't find a better term for wearing all the hats. We're about a dozen employees over in the Orlando, Florida area, so just a couple hours over. So my job there is, we actually are an EOS shop too as well, so I'd like a spiff. I'm the visionary there, but just trying to do whatever we can to make the company better, to make the customers do better. And so with that has always fallen leading the automation, even though by no means am I all that technical with it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you each for the backgrounds. I'm going to ask, by now you guys know my routine. I'm going to ask a few questions, we'll get the room warmed up, and then we'll open up the room to questions. And I want to hear the questions, because this is the final Q&A of the day, although I bet Aaron will take some questions if you have any closing ones for him. Opening question, was there a particular pain point that you were trying to address or solve with automation? And as you describe that, well, let me just pause there. That's the question. Was there a particular pain point you wanted to solve with automation?
Yeah, I can answer that first. So if you look at the way that we operate as scalability and how we operate in our business, we tend to throw people at the problems, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what happened in a lot of our organizations. It's like we are essentially throwing people at problems. So the pain point for us was, now you got a lot of people, a lot of lines of businesses that run. It's like, we should be automating a lot of this. This should be automated. Like, humans make mistakes. The automation won't make a mistake as long as it's obviously programmed well enough. But essentially our pain point was that. And I'll let you, sir, go on next.
Yeah.
Sure. We had 2 pain points that happened in 2 different parts of our business. One pain point was in our SOC, where I think many of you know, especially many years ago, when you turned on all these tools and you were getting all these pressures from your customers to be super responsive and really understand what was going on, we just got flooded by alerts. And so we had to really look into SOAR products and try to figure out how to ingest and process all those logs. And then we had another pain point, which was everyone knows MSPs suck at sales, and my partner Neelish, he got HubSpot, and he had to figure out how to be the sales guy all by himself, doing all the follow-ups, doing all the rigorous things you have to do. And so he really leaned into the sales automation and kicked off a bunch of things with that. So those were our two totally different domains in the company, and there was no overlap and no interaction between the two, but those were two very acute pain points.
Okay. Matt?
Ours was a little more typical, I think, and it's still talked about, is that we got introduced to Aaron and the team 3.5 years ago, I guess, and we had clients that were fortunate enough to be growing just after COVID, and the onboarding and then the offboarding was just killing us. The amount of time we were spending was just really, I had 2 full-time techs on it, and so that was our huge pain point that it was worth every hour we put into it to try to get it fixed.
Okay, all right. Let's treat this like mini case studies. And what I mean by that is I want to spend a little bit of time with each one of you now, dedicated, and walk me through. You've mentioned the pain point. I want to talk a little bit about, okay, you've identified the pain point. How do you begin to now formulate a potential plan, formulate a potential budget, and begin to address that pain point? And I'm going to mix it up. I don't want to go up and down the panel. So, John, let's do a mini case study with you. So do you want to start with the security side, or do you want to start with the HubSpot one?
Do you mind if I skip and talk about Roost?
Yeah.
Because those were early journeys, and they weren't my journey.
Okay.
So the pain point that came up with Roost was we were at Rite of Boom, saw Aaron's talk. We're like, wow, okay, this is a thing. I hadn't really thought of a automation product, and I got excited.
What year was this roughly?
It was 2023.
Okay.
So I got super excited, and I couldn't get anyone else excited. No one else. I mean, well, Joel, our COO, he got excited, but we really struggled with a vision conflict within the team, because it felt like if we implement this new tool, Roost, all the other little PowerShell scripts and other things that we were doing, they were all going to lose, and they were like, but we're going in a direction here, and it feels like you don't want to believe in what I've built. You want to get the next shiny thing.
Right.
I've never heard of Roost. Why? We do not need another tool. And so trying to get everyone to recognize that this could be a centralizing agent. This could be a focal point, something that comes with training, that comes with a community. And that took months of work to try to get everyone to buy in.
So let's I'll use a bad metaphor just because it popped into my head first. Let's call Roost a cookie, right? So you start nibbling on the cookie and you're like, but yeah, this is a really good cookie. How do you get the rest of the team or some other team members nibbling on the cookie, or at least watching you nibble on that cookie and saying, boy, that looks sweet. I'd like a bite of that cookie. Like, how do you go down that journey?
I mean, you really have to believe in the product, and you have to repeat it multiple times that you're serious. This isn't a flash in the pan.
Right.
Using EOS, we made automation a rock. Mm-hmm. We formed a team. We put a charter together, a real statement about what it is that we are talking about with automation and why it's going to make a difference here. And while that helped, we still had skeptics.
Right.
It was still difficult. And it wasn't the worst skepticism came from people who were already doing automation. They just weren't doing automation in Roost. Mm-hmm. And that was a fascinating and unexpected thing that we had to grapple with in our organization.
Right.
And we did solve it by identifying specific integration engineers. We've used the term integration, so we focused on tools. We need to make our tools work better. We've bought tools. We need to expand their capabilities. We need to integrate these tools better. And so we saw that automation was maybe a word that was causing the unintended reaction. And so let's just lean into integration. Everyone gets behind leveraging the APIs, making this tool talk with that tool better.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, let's pause there. Anything that comes to mind, Matt or Sagar, in terms of, from your vantage point, the first process you wanted to automate and getting, whether it was budget or people buy-in, what did you do to get people nibbling on the cookie?
Yeah, I think for us, it was a bit of a learning curve more than anything else because we had failures before, right? Automation, when we got into Roost, it wasn't our first forte into automation. So 6 years ago, if you go back 6 years ago, the company made a decision to go and look at UiPath and look at other tools.
All right, yeah, and let's be clear, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, expensive, complex enterprise. They're great for automation, but it's a system integrator, global service provider type of platform.
Pretty much, yeah. It was. I mean, the tool itself was fine. It's not about the tool, but essentially what we figured out was you got to have a center of excellence around the tool. It's like around the practice, right?
Right.
We bought the tool. We threw a couple of people at it. Those people moved on. And then what happened to the tool? Well, it ran for a bit, and then eventually the automation stopped working. We kept obviously paying for UiPath. So I think, fast forward 6 years from later, we're like, listen, we're going to look at automation again. It was like, oh, okay, here we go again. So I think this time around, it was like I specifically went back to the board and said, okay, we have this tool. We're not building it from scratch. This tool already has integrations built into it. Because then it was like, well, we have our own automation AI teams because we did an acquisition in 2024 with a certain company. Like, well, we already have these tools. It's like, yeah, we do, but what they were proposing was essentially building it from scratch, maintaining every API, and it's like, well, that will take many years for us to build our own automation platform. So there was a very specific use case and sort of ROI projection that we put together based on it. And I said part of that was we will create a center of excellence. We will hire the folks. There will be this tool. And we actually did simulations on costs and all that type of stuff. And I think I emphasized the center of excellence. I said we failed 6 years ago because we didn't have that center of excellence built.
Yeah. So I want to do a deeper dive on that. Matt, I'll jump to you in a second. But before we go there, the center of excellence. So when I used to cover enterprise, Accenture would go into their enterprise customers and say exactly what you're saying. You need a center of excellence for X, analytics, you name the term, but what do you mean by that? Who lives in the center of excellence, or what lives in it? Is it certain content or documented processes? What is a center of excellence?
So in our world, the center of excellence around automation would mean people, process, and technology cohesively are planned for. They exist, they work together. And I think we did not account for that when we did this, like I said, 6 years ago, because it was like we never thought about all the pieces. We only thought, hey, we're going to buy this tool and we're going to hire this one guy or these two guys and they're going to run this whole platform, right? And obviously there's risk associated with that. And they thought, okay, well, great, this will just organically just run. No one was managing the actual outcomes and the ROI and all that type of stuff. But center of excellence essentially is people, process, and technology.
Gotcha. And then one more follow-up that popped into my head. There may be MSPs in the room that have 10 employees, 5 employees, 20 employees. Center of excellence to them may sound intimidating. Could you build a virtual center of excellence by being in the Roost community? Can that be your center of excellence, so to speak? Or at least leverage some things in a repeatable, scalable way from the community?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of Roost, right? You don't need to be extensively building out a center of excellence. I think realistically, when you look at people, process, and technology, you could have one person and still do it, as long as you define your objectives. There's been enough presentations over the past couple of days to actually help you build that center of excellence. But I think really focus on that when you're starting off. Put your emphasis on there. Talk to your leaders and say, listen, we're not just going to go straight automation. We will help build a center of excellence. We will take care of, here's all the different things, and here's the outcomes. And I look at the center of excellence, I look at some of the stuff that we presented back to the board now, and it's like, it's more than just time savings, because I keep hearing time savings, which is great, of course, on the platform side, but the dollars and cents, really what it came down to.
Got it, okay. Matt, you've been waiting patiently. Tell us a little bit about the case study or that first process that you wanted to get automated and what the business case was.
Yeah, I think ours is really different. We were talking about this before. Obviously, company sizes are wildly different here.
Yeah.
And when we met Aaron, I think Tim at like an IT Nation a few years ago, we kind of talked about our pain point of the user onboardings and offboardings. And at the time, I think we're 5 or 6 employees, about half our size right now. And then before we got started with them, I'm a husband-wife team and we went down to the studs. We had our dispatch, husband-wife, because we just decided the culture sucked. So I went through the process with whoever was on Aaron's team to start with this new user onboarding. It took a while, and I took all the time I need, even though I was kind of running every aspect of the business. So there wasn't a budget per se, but it was the pain point was big enough that I was still taking time, and it was a small enough business that even just the time investment, I had to kind of say why I was doing that, but I saw the value in getting, in what it could do for us. Okay. And I kind of wanted to be, I wanted to be ahead of the curve really, but I also knew that even when we hired a full team back, I didn't want them getting bored and whatever, the monotony of like clicking a bunch of buttons. Yeah. So it was totally different. And then we've grown from there to where, to the point of a smaller team. We are a smaller team. We have a automation center of excellence. We bring the small team we have, the kind of leaders of each department, and try to push forward with what makes sense for every department.
Okay, all right. I've got a ton more questions, but I also want to be very respectful of the crowd. Do we have any questions so far? I do want to see some hands, and there's a question right up front right here. And I'll work in my questions as well, but let's get a microphone to you, sir. If we could get your first name and just, where you're based and how many employees roughly.
Yeah, my name's Jack Purcell. I'm the Director of Automation for Rudic Innovation Technology. We're a 20-person MSP operating out of Dallas, Texas. Working a lot in automation, specifically kind of on the automation team. A lot of times people kind of say we operate in silence. If we're doing our job well, hopefully no one notices because nothing big is breaking at scale. How do you demonstrate the value of automation to your own employees, but also to your clients? Because I know back-of-house automation is kind of hard to pitch to them as a benefit for clients, if that makes sense.
And let's start with your own employees. Because we talked a little bit. Last year's event was about building automation internally. So how do you show the value to them? And then this year's conference, getting out to the customers and showing them the value.
Yeah. So we try to celebrate it in our staff meetings, but we have a monthly report that comes out from our integration engineer that lists all the automations that have been built, and puts how many hours have been saved, and shares that with the company as a whole. Internally, now that we have had everyone adopt automation and they understand that it's a real value add, that just reinforces we're still doing it. There's still lots of things happening. One thing too that really helps is our automation team. We use Slack to communicate, and when someone posts something in a room saying, hey, can I get this? They just turn it around really fast. So there's a real quick, almost same day reward for ideas and things that make your life easier as a tech. That's made a big difference. So you get that immediate, hit and dopamine hit from like, I have this idea, and they're like, well, there it is. Maybe a quick clarification and so that we're all on the same page. But that's key because it shows a prioritization, and then that summary is just really nice to see because even if you just
is this a simple one dashboard report, or
it's honestly a bullet list.
Okay.
It's an unsexy list of here's all the things we did across all the different platforms, and it's more, even if you don't read it, you see it and it's impressive, and you're like, oh, okay, we're really doing this. And I think that drip, drip, drip every month there's something that's coming out, and then everyone feels like, oh yeah, I recognize that. Yeah, he gave me that, or they built that for me. I think that makes a big, big difference internally. I could keep going on the customer side,
yeah.
but I'll pause.
Yeah, so let's stay internal for a minute, and then we'll go external to the customers. Internally, how do you show the value?
So for us, that was actually one thing that happened. We was part of the Automation Center of Excellence meeting is that the techs first off weren't always even reporting something, and even more for HR, finance, and they started kind of asking questions of like, you're making all these automations for technical, what about us? So making an automation that helped them, that helped us tremendously. Like it helped their HR function. They now have kind of financial dashboards, financial reports that they didn't have. And even for the techs, the same thing kind of worked because we found they didn't always, level one tech isn't always thinking of it, but then when something got made for them, that made their job easier. Now they started to ask the question. Now they started to ask for it. So I think you kind of similar, but you have to give them something that helps them, and now they're bought in. Yep. Now they think of it a little more.
Yep.
Yeah, for us, it's two simple things. For me at least, it's one. I'm part of the executive leadership team, taking those stats back to the top and saying, look, there's time saved, but there's also dollars and cents that we're saving based on time. So that's one. The second one, actually, Kelvin covered this in the previous session here. Like, have your automation engineers actually be part of the process. Let them bring the opportunities. Let them be. I always told the people that join the team, the automation team, that half your job is a business job, right? And the other half of your job is technical. And let them buy into the ideas. If you are the one that's coming up with the idea, speaking to other leaders, platform teams, or whatever else in the organization, saying, "Hey, look, I discovered this," and you buy into it and you believe it, you'll do much better. You get better results out of it. So I think those two things definitely help and have the internal buy-in.
Gary Pica, during his presentation this morning, he really spoke about how when an MSP or a virtual CIO goes out and interviews the customer, it's not about your tech stack. It's about, tell me about your business strategy. Tell me about your growth strategy. And it's all these, a long list of business questions to do discovery. Do you want your automation team going around department to department, HR, finance? Tell me about your daily activities and where are the manual tasks that slow you down, things like that, or not really? You really want the departments telling the automation team, I've just got a hairball here, can you automate it?
So an easy way to answer that is, I think the automation roadmap should be obviously done by someone that leads the automation for sure. Okay. But those actual conversations and the requirements and everything else, I believe the engineer needs to buy in and come up with their ideas of how to do it and how to actually, because you could technically in your automation roadmap say, this is how we're going to execute on it. And you go back to MVPs, minimum viable product, which Amanda talked about. It's one of those things where come up with MVPs for each piece of your roadmap, right? Yep. Like, don't just go in and say, we're going to automate this end to end and it's going to take 3 months. Be like, well, 3 months is a lot. Plus you're going to take a vacation. There's another month gone there. You're not going to get this into production anytime soon.
Right. Okay. Matt, you were going to say something you're okay? Okay. So I wanted to transition to showing value to the customer. Are there KPIs or during your quarterly business reviews or some steps you take to show the value of automation to the customer?
I'm going to be honest, we aren't doing anything overt yet. Definitely been inspired by conversations here. We've mostly been just thinking about continuing to build out our customer portal and add more easy buttons to it. That's been, I think, the best way to surface it where it matters to customers. And so I can see us starting to report more on the portal usage and highlighting and playing that up. I loved one of the earlier presenters, Air. That was amazing, seeing how they were really trying to use natural language to start prompting, like, hey, you could have gone to the portal or, used our automation to do this. So I can definitely see us starting to be more overt about this. We talk about a lot of things in our TBRs with our customers, so we'll have to figure out what are we going to not talk about when we add this in, because it is already a crowded menu. Yeah. But I think it's worth it. I think this is something we do need to surface and start talking about.
Other thoughts on sort of the customer ROI or what you may do in that area?
So same thing. We aren't really doing anything directly, but we have customers that are more and more, they're curious. They're hearing about the product they use that has some sort of automation. So I do talk about what we do internally, and some of our customers are like, oh, cool, could you help us with that? So we're trying to figure that out. So I think, we're not ready to, if you will, launch, but I think it's a value, to what Gary Pica said, to I think what a lot of the conversations have. I think that is where they're going to come to us. Your customers are going to come to us with a lot of this stuff. And if we can kind of understand that for them, it's an opportunity to keep them more sticky. It's an opportunity to make some more money and gain some experience. So I think it's something we plan to do. We just aren't quite there yet.
Got it. Excellent. Other questions? Come on, folks. No one gets out of here alive without questions. All right, I have a follow-up question. Sagar, you had mentioned, sorry about the feedback. You had mentioned, your company was on UiPath years ago, right? And I think there was an explosive moment up in the enterprise in a good way. ServiceNow, for instance, was originally known as like an IT service management platform. And then they expanded into workflow automation across basically every department, HR, finance, and the list goes on. Do you see a similar explosion potentially happening in the automation area in SMB across every department over time? Not tomorrow, but over time.
Yeah, I think over time, absolutely. I'm a little biased. Obviously, we use ServiceNow as well, but it's one of those things where that never scaled down that well. It still doesn't.
Yeah.
So when we have a ton of enterprise clients, we put on ServiceNow essentially, but I generally feel that it hasn't been able to scale down. It's been scaling up okay, but scaling down to SMB is not as easy.
No,
it's not easy,
no.
and it costed a ton of cash. UiPath. And what we got out of it, I mean, you look at Roost today and look at how we're leveraging it. I mean, the ROI numbers are off the charts comparatively.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. What about priorities we're in June right now. Where are you taking automation next? What are some of the next steps that you're prioritizing for 2025?
Customer portal.
Customer portal, yeah. Self-service customer portal?
Self-service.
All right. What are some of the first tasks you would like to automate in that customer portal where the customer can just come in and take care of the service themselves?
I mean, I would like to start promoting various things because we are really big into CIS and security frameworks, and I would love if we could promote people coming in and kind of self-auditing, just double-checking that our user lists, our device lists are accurate, and if there's any inaccuracies, they just click a button and it triggers an automated process to true that up.
Right.
License true-ups, things like that have a real cost driver. I would love that because that promotes good governance. It's a great way to keep encouraging them to come back to the portal as well. So that's something I would love to start working on.
Okay. Next steps, 2025?
So like a lot of that too, but what's interesting, and I don't think any of the vendors are here in the room, but we're actually looking to see what vendors we have that we can kind of replace their products.
Okay.
Put a little
so you want to
back
simplify your stack potentially?
We do. Yeah, I mean, some
Yeah.
of them aren't even that expensive. It's
Yeah.
just more of it's another tool to manage. It's another this and
Right.
that. So we're looking at some of that as well, but we're literally in the process of doing some of that as we speak.
Yeah. Show of hands. I mean, this has been a theme that a lot of people have mentioned to me one-on-one privately. I see automation as a way to potentially get rid of products in my stack and just do an automation. Is that something the room is starting to see? Is that something certain folks in the room have already done? Yeah. Yeah, great. That's something, after you've done it, you think you've seen the ROI on it? Okay, 7 or 8 hands already. Next year, I bet you the arms are way higher on that one. I think simplification of the stack will be a continued big theme. AI, I purposely didn't want to turn this into an AI panel, but on the other hand, I think it is an important conversation. Aaron did a wonderful job yesterday talking about sort of automation and then plugging in an AI brain to automation. Do you see a path similar to that? Or do you not want to introduce AI to the system yet? Do you want to nail sort of the foundational automation and then think about the brain longer term?
Yeah, I think the AI component, it's actually going to enable us further. So you look at the scale that we operate at, and hiring and bringing people up to speed takes a lot of time. And it's, realistically, yeah, you could do your training in a week. You can kind of figure things out, but understanding syntax, understanding integrations, like all that takes time. So what I see, what that will help us is enable us to scale up quicker, bring in the right sort of staff that we need, and not spending so much time figuring it out, right? Like again, you can kind of get, not your MVP, but you kind of get your bones put together.
Yeah.
And then we can have more senior folks look at it or whatever. But I feel it's going to enable us to scale much quicker on Roost.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to force fit AI because I feel external pressures to do so. I see AI as, a really eager, smart, slightly drunk or high intern. Totally something that is fun, spicy.
Right.
But I would have to really think hard about the guardrails, the business risks.
Yeah.
And it will siphon off energy and vision away from automation. And so you have to have a reason to siphon it off. You have to have a reason to let that additional variable into the equation. And right now there's so much low-hanging fruit. I feel like AI is not low-hanging fruit.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't feel super eager to go up on a rickety ladder way up high when I'm going to be passing by so much stuff that's just ready to be plucked right off the tree.
Right.
So we already have a little bit of AI in some of the stuff, and we're continuing forward pretty well. Understanding can be drunk sometimes. But that's probably the biggest question is the guardrails, when to stop, but there are plenty of automations that I think AI can make better.
Right.
So we are pushing forward with that.
Gotcha. Yeah. But in the meantime, it's clear that there's major ROI in automation even before you begin dabbling in terms of plugging in a brain. So don't get overwhelmed by AI noise. Was there a question up front? Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. So my question pertains to both showing value internally as well as probably replacing tool sets, like you were talking about just a moment ago. So have any of you tried, rather than just automating processes that are currently manual, how much have you extended your current tool sets using Roost, or made them do things that they wouldn't otherwise do? Is that something that you all have seen value in that has helped internally?
Are you unlocking more value from your existing tools thanks to automation and Roost?
Yeah, I think for sure, because we've got some features in our PSA that really wouldn't have been possible in what it does, and Roost is allowing us to do that. So it's not quite a wrapper yet, but it's just things within the ticket that allow us to do things that it doesn't do yet. And I think in general, yeah, we're pulling things out of other tools that aren't otherwise available. So we are absolutely doing that.
Hi there. So my name is Trevor. I'm a junior software engineer at a MSP of about 40 to 50 people up in Newtown, Connecticut. I was wondering, I think this was touched on a little bit before. Maybe this is more of a question for Sagar. But in terms of your automation journey, I was wondering at what point during it did you kind of realize that you can start using automation as a service? And if you ever reached that point in your journey, kind of how you balanced creating internally used automations versus putting time to, reaching out to customers, see if there's something that they can do with the automation that you're creating.
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that question. So one of the things I did want to get out of Flow this year was understand the customer level automation. I think they called it AS or whatever, automation as a service, right? Your mother would be proud. So I remember, so one of the challenges that we have, right? And especially when you look at there's certain verticals that we have customers in, healthcare, financial, we have banks. It's like, to do customer level automation, governance, risk, and compliance, especially in Europe, it's like that's about 50% of my time would just go into that. So that's been very apprehensive, it'd be very apprehensive to start getting into customer level automations without actually having okay, does it fit within your ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, all which we are certified for? But I think that's been the barrier, to be honest with you, for us personally. But I do believe sometime this year or early next year, we will be deep into customer level automations. Me personally, we need to figure out how we can get past the governance, risk, compliance part of it. Because I think once you take it to a customer, they have 1,000 questions, which again, valid. Where's my data going? There's no problem with the automation component. I know our sales guys are great. They're going to sell it in the field. The customer's going to be gung-ho about it. But I feel when I get to the governance risk part, they all have, risk teams and whatnot. They would put the red flag up and say, sorry, until you can explain yourself,
right?
You're not gonna go ahead with this.
Yeah.
I just want to add to that. When I think of customers and what's the easiest customer to bring automation to, it's the co-managed customer. It's the one where we are augmenting and working side by side in partnership with local IT, and that's the best. I mean, they speak your language. Whatever you're going to build, they're going to be able to validate and see and champion internally. They'll be your biggest advocate. So for us at NetFriends, probably about a quarter to a third of our customers we're in a co-managed situation with, and they're already our most profitable and our best customers on many levels because of that tight relationship. The person that we're working with really understands IT because they have to carry out IT internally. So that would be where I would focus if you're trying to think about how to bring automation to a customer. And yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, we have a question here, and then I will follow up with a closing question. Sound good? Okay, go ahead.
So, Jeff Detloff with Corsair, where I'm the head of the AI strategy. We're a 500-person PE-backed MSP. And we're hearing in the public from large companies saying we are replacing employees with technology, but then we hear lots of other people saying, no, we're not going to replace employees. This automation is just going to save us time. What's the reality with you? Are you tracking that? Are you thinking about it? What are your feelings?
Yeah, I don't think automation replaces employees. I think automation actually is more of a retention strategy than anything. I think you have to question who, when someone says, I'm going to use automation to replace employees, I mean, that's probably someone who's got board pressure or pressure from their, capital backers to try to cut costs, and payroll's often where they cut. So they're probably just messaging to their boss, hey, I heard that you need me to make this place more profitable. But for us, we do not see automation as eliminating any jobs or preventing us from hiring jobs. We see it hopefully unlocking more creativity, more ways to approach a customer in a meaningful way that makes them feel like they're getting their solutions faster, and so we can work on deeper and harder problems for them. So automation hopefully is taking away the mundane and allowing your best cycles, that caffeinated brain, to be able to really go out and do great work without distraction and having to circle back and go reset a password again or do a backup restore again, things like that.
I'll add to that. The retention part isn't just the mundane, but it's also maybe you're not replacing an employee. Like if you have 20 employees, you don't want to go to 15, but if you have 20, maybe you're going to stay at 20 for longer, and you can pay those 20 people more because so that's the other thing I look at.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a, I never want to say former journalist because I never closed the book fully on that. But as someone who's been around media a long time, I mean, the Wall Street Journal, everyone else right now, when they write about layoffs, they're putting AI in the headline for SEO every time. I think there's a portion of the headlines that are accurate and true. I think certain companies think they can lay off people for AI. I think there's a portion of the headlines where it's just please the shareholders, get the stock even higher. Just the latest headlines, Amazon CEO said we're going to have fewer employees because of AI. Microsoft's expected to do layoffs. Microsoft and OpenAI may have a falling out. Like don't let the headlines distract you from the opportunity here, which is get automated, and then Roost will have an AI brain for you to plug in when the time is right for you. I think would be my message. My closing question for the panel would be, attendees go back to the office, they're in the office next week. What's the one light lift thing they could do to move forward or get started with automation?
I would say if you don't have an automation roadmap created, start creating a roadmap and mapping it all out. I think that I did talk to a lot of service providers that are here today. And yeah, you could be small, you could be a 1-person shop or a 50-person shop, but I think having your roadmap, being able to follow kind of a DevOps type methodology on developing and having structure will show senior leadership that you've got your things in order. We have a plan. We didn't just buy a tool,
right? And
we're not just throwing people at it. We actually have a plan, and that is how, at least from my perspective, we're able to show value to the organization. That look. We have these releases coming up. We have these features going live. There's value coming down the pipe. If you don't have that, I implore everyone to go ahead and actually create that automation roadmap.
Got it. One light lift?
Make a list of your tools and put beside each tool if it's integrated with anything else.
Right.
And anything that doesn't have an integration, you need to ask yourself why. Is it just because it's immaterial, not important, or you just haven't gotten to it yet? But start asking, like, why? Why is that tool, why is it left out?
Yeah. Gary did a good job this morning. Gary Pika saying, take inventory of your applications.
Yeah, take an inventory.
Yep.
And just write down whatever you think of. It doesn't have to be perfect or exhaustive. Right. Just start writing what tools you use.
Yeah, and I would broaden it. Tools and applications. Get the list. Yep.
I would say, because we went through this journey, if you're using Roost or something else and you're using the crates, which are great, kind of decided the ROI of bringing somebody on, even if it's a fractional, something where you can actually kind of turbocharge that.
Right.
Because we had great ROI already.
Yeah.
When we actually brought in a resource, so much better. So I just realized, maybe it's a tools thing, but look at that ROI and where it can go.
Yeah, I think last year on the panel, you and I spoke about shiny objects, and you and I are the same. Oh, it's new, I want to be the one. And you were wise enough to get that other talent in. So fantastic. So how about a hand for our panelists? Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate it.